Okay, I want to talk about Vimanas. A Vimana is a mythological flying palace or chariot described in Hindu texts and Sanskrit epics. And it's supposedly something that could take various forms. There are different kinds of Vimanas. And what's interesting to me, just looking at a couple things on on Wikipedia, was this one Vimana called the Pushpaka, and it's shaped like a pyramid to a certain degree, or a temple. And when I looked at it a little further, and and some of the other ones, this one stuck out and reminded me of temples, specifically like some of the altars, the Catholic Church or the Jewish synagogue, and definitely some of the temples um, in Cambodia, and obviously Hindu temples, and some of these temples in Mexico. Now, when I started to look at it further, it also reminded me of the Apollo spacecraft. Um, you know, the same kind of thing. And if I start comparing the two, I mean, it's not exact, but it is definitely similar. And when I started to look into this space program that America put together in the late 60s and early 70s, you can see that almost everything is named after the cronines, like the Saturn rockets, the Apollo missions, even the patches, have the eagle, which, I mean, you could say that's the symbol of America, but it's also Zeus's symbol. And even if you now look at, the modern day Space Shuttle, even that on its side, tends to remind me of this Vimana. So, what I thought's interesting is the possibility that this could have existed. And if I go back and look at my timeline, and the further I study it, for these cronines, I estimated over, between 15 and 19,000 years ago. It could go even further. And then if I look at the writings of Plato, it seemed that Atlantis ended about 12,000 years ago. Well, it's very possible that they built something very similar to what we had in the late 60s and 70s, and this space shuttle there, and that's where the stories came from. Now, this could be reaching, and it's just a coincidence, but to me, I find it interesting that all three of these things have very similar shape. Now, I just showed a picture of the Virgin Mary, and I had a picture of her with I guess a UFO in there. That was interesting. And the other thing I noticed was, as I talked about in a previous video with these shape-shifting philosophies, they have pictures with Zeus and Mamiwata with the serpent's tail, just like a naga out of Indian mythology. And I find that interesting, and that they would have some sort of a watch. Not just it wasn't a bangle or anything, it was a watch. And I have to wonder if all of this goes together, and what you're seeing is a representation of some highly advanced technological equipment, or just something that they remembered, or just a coincidence. But I see a correlation between the shape of some of these ancient Vimanas and the temples and the modern day space program, which, by the way, is interesting to me that it's gone nowhere. And I'm not going to go down this path, but when I look at some of these pictures from the moon, there's no stars in the black sky, and it makes me wonder why. And the fact that we haven't gone back is rather interesting as well. So that's it for my brief discussion on Vimanas. I'll probably dig further into some of the Hindu mythology and make some other videos. But for now, I just wanted to point out what I noticed. Thank you.